But now I'm just a coding tutor, so that's good enough for me. It's a decent living, so I don't have much to complain. Right then, so if you're going to become a freelancer, whether it is as a developer or a coding tutor like myself or any other kind of freelancing, the first thing you need to have is, I'm eating some grapes because I'm tired, not because of work or anything, but it is 10 p.m. After much thinking about, I figured out that 10 p.m. is the ideal time for me to be able to consistently do these workshops. I may not have mentioned this before, but I'm going to start doing it now. So all these workshops, these live workshops that I'm doing, is sort of like a practice run for next year, because I want to build like a workshop ecosystem around me, and these Twitch workshops that I'm doing are like a proof of concept that I can show to others who might become my team members and others who might want to help me make this bigger by investing and things like that. So these workshops, the information I'm sharing is real, but primarily they are like a practice run for something bigger that I might be able to do in the future. So that is another reason why I'm doing them. So anyway, so let's begin. So of course we have a Discord channel. I would request you to join our Discord channel, where we can chat with me and you can chat with other freelancers as well. So I'm trying to build like a freelancing community and see where that takes us. So that's about me, and that's our website if you would like to visit or something. Right then, so when it comes to building a home office, right? So you have a home office. Now, I of course live with myself. I don't have any family as such, so I live by myself. So my entire home becomes a home office. But you may want to dedicate perhaps one room in your house if you can. One thing about if you're trying to do freelancing, that probably means you are facing some kind of a money shortage. So there is that reality, so which is something I'm going to acknowledge, because when I started, I also obviously had a lot of money problems. But the thing is, in the Batman comic book, you have the main hero, Bruce Wayne, and he always says, to make money, right? To make money, you have to spend money. All right, so that is one of the first things I want to share here, right? So that's the only way. There is no other way here. So if you're planning to make money, you have to first spend money. So you'll have to spend money to have a home office. Now, if you don't have a separate room, then you need to get a separate room. So maybe you could rent a small home so that you have your own working space. Now, it is very important that you need to understand that when you build your home office, the main thing is you have your own space. In my case, I have lived alone all my life, so my entire apartment is my office. Nobody disturbs me. Like right now, I am doing a workshop, so my phone is off, and even if I get a call, it'll only ring if there's an emergency and stuff like that. Nobody's going to disturb me when I'm working. Like right now, I'm doing this workshop. Nobody's going to disturb me. Because there's nobody else in the house. So this is something which is very difficult for a lot of freelancers. When you work from home, a lot of times it just so happens that the other people in your house, they may not understand that, oh, you are working, right? That is why there's a reason why people like to work in offices. Maybe not but it's one way for them to escape from the daily struggles of home life. When you go to office, you're in office, so you only focus on work. So when you are working in a home office, you should ideally you should have a completely separate house or an apartment as your home office. Like your entire home becomes your office, which is what I have. But that may not be practical for everyone because most people have a family, in which case I would recommend you have one room dedicated for your freelancing work. So that is the very first thing. Now, you might not have a big enough house to have a separate room, but I'm sorry, if you're trying to become a freelancer, then you need to understand you're trying to make money, but before you can earn money, you will have to spend it. So if you don't live in a big enough house which doesn't have a separate room, then maybe you should try to get a separate room for yourself, or just rent out a small house nearby and convert that into an office. Or if you are well funded, if you are in a good position financially, you could simply rent out an office as well, if you can afford it. But that beats the whole purpose of a home office. So ideally, you would still be in your house where you have an extra room that you can have for. So convert one room as a dedicated office. So this is the recommended scenario. An ideal situation is something like what I have. My entire apartment is my home office. Like, I have a desk here in one room, I have another desk in my living room, and I have one more desk in one of my extra rooms. So I have a lot of extra space. So I have multiple rooms and all of them have a desk. So there you go. So a dedicated workspace, at least one dedicated workspace. I mean, if you're like me, like I'm a full-time freelancer, so I have multiple dedicated desks, but at least you should have a dedicated desk. But before you can have a dedicated desk, you need to have one dedicated room, so that even if you're living with your family, when you're working, you lock the door or close the door, or you put a post-it saying that you're working, so that other people know that you are now in your office. So they will stay away while you work and not disturb you and things like that. So that's the first thing, space. A dedicated room or a dedicated home just for the home office. That should be the first thing you need to get ready. Next step, now once you have a room dedicated for freelancing, the next thing is, it all starts with a desk, right? And then a chair. It seems commonsensical, right? But I've seen many freelancers who are always trying to do freelancing without a dedicated desk and a chair. The reasons may be several, but I think the reason why this is such a big challenge is probably because a good desk costs a lot of money, and a good chair costs, again, a lot of money. Now, now in my home office, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 desks, and I have 2, expensive chairs. So once you have your space, office space, the next thing is buy a proper desk, buy a proper chair. Now, please remember, don't use your like a regular chair or something. Make sure that it is an office chair with lumbar support, because you will be working with computers all day, and I'm telling you from experience, I made this mistake. I was unable to invest in a proper chair when I was younger, and because of that, I have a burning back pain now as I grow older, and I'm now forced to take more breaks. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I stopped being a developer, because I have such insane back pain. I cannot work like I used to. So you don't make the mistake that I did. Make sure you have a proper chair with an office chair with lumbar support. Even a cheap used office chair will have better lumbar support than a regular chair, like a dining chair or a foldable chair or a plastic chair. My God, please don't sit and work on a plastic chair. So again, these things will cost money, but I'll just have to go back to what I said, which is, to make money, you have to spend money. There is no other way. There may be stories about people, coming from nothing earning money simply with pure skill and things like that. That may have happened to one or two people, but it doesn't work that way. Okay, so you need to get all these things ready, and they will cost money. They will definitely cost money. So yes, and so that's about the chair, like the office chair with the proper lumbar support. Very, very important. Please take care of your back. Keep it strong, because you will need it as you grow older. Otherwise, you will suffer like I do. Of course, now I have all my chairs are lumbar support chairs. So now things a little better. And of course, don't forget to take a lot of breaks. Ideally, you should be taking break every 45 minutes, at least every 1 hour or every 90 minutes minimum. You need to get up, walk around, and things like that. You need to make it a habit. You will forget. I know it's annoying, like you have to take a break. It breaks your concentration. It breaks the speed at which you're working, and it may not always be practical also, but you got to take my word for it. Like I said, I am really paying the price for not having an office chair with lumbar support and not taking enough breaks. I have started doing that for the last 2 years, but before that, yeah, it was a terrible, terrible thing I did to my body. But there's nothing I can do about the past, but I am fixing the present and preparing for the future. Now, the second thing is, as far as a desk is concerned, I am not a big fan of computer desk. I actually think dining tables, specifically 6-seater dining tables. Okay, so 6-seater dining tables make for the best desks. I'm not kidding though. I'm really not kidding. Some people think like I'm joking, like when I say that they need to buy dining tables. I'm not joking at all. Seriously, if you are going to have a desk, then a 6-seater is really the best desk you can buy for yourself. Okay, so the reason is simple. One, a good dining table. One, of course, again, that's going to be a huge expense for you. I used to have a 6-seater dining table in my home office, but due to some circumstances, I lost it. Now I'm not able to afford a proper 6-seater dining table, but all my desks are in fact dining tables. So I personally believe that if you are going to have a desk, I'm telling you, just buy a good dining table. Even if you can't buy a good dining table, just buy a cheap budget version as well. That's what I have. As I keep mentioning, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 desks right now, and they are all dining tables. And before I lost, before the pandemic, during the pandemic, I lost many things. One of those things was I used to have this really, really expensive, sturdy, strong, wooden 6-seater massive dining table. It was amazing. I missed that desk, and God willing, this year, once I take care of some financial challenges, I'm hoping to once again become a proud owner of a massive 6 or 8-seater dining table to use as my desk. So that will be your next expense. So again, I'm talking about things which will cost you a lot of money, and if you're trying to freelance, your money situation might be bad, but it is what it is. If not right away, eventually this should be your goal. Like maybe once you start making some money with freelancing, this should be your goal. The first purchases, the space is something you will have to figure out on your own. But after that, once the money, maybe in the beginning you don't have to get these things, but once you start making some money, these two purchases should be number one on your purchase list. Okay, let's keep going then. Now, I am in computers, so equipment. Now, it doesn't matter really. It doesn't matter which industry you're in. You are going to be using computers, and you're going to be using mobile phones. Now, let me first talk about mobile phones. Ideally, I would recommend that you have 2 phones. Now, one phone is obviously your personal phone, right? You have your personal phone, and then you have a freelancing phone. I know there are some people who like to use the same phone and phone number for both. Now, I see this is nothing related to money or something, but freelancing is unregulated. It's not like a job. For example, I'm from India. Freelancing doesn't have any actual recognition. Nobody recognizes freelancing as a real job. Despite the amount of money I make, despite all the successes I have had for the last 10 years, a lot of people declare that I am unemployed. So freelancing really doesn't have a legal framework and things like that. So every now and then you will always run into a scenario where you're dealing with a difficult client and things might get dangerous. Now, things can get very dangerous in freelancing, especially if you are working face to face with a client. I can't get into those stories today, but one day I might get into them. But yes, freelancing can be a dangerous profession because there's no regulation. There are a lot of cheaters out there, and sometimes when money is involved, things can always go bad. The least you can do to protect yourself is to have a separate phone for freelancing. Never use your personal phone as the number to get in touch or stay in touch with your clients. So that means you will probably have to buy a separate phone and a phone number for freelancing. Now, what I do is my personal phone is an iPhone, an expensive iPhone, whereas my freelancing phone is a budget Android device, because the freelancing phone is not something I take with me when I travel or anything like that. And so there you go. So this is a second thing I would recommend. So when you start your freelancing, please don't give out your personal phone number to anybody, and definitely not to your clients, not to your suppliers and other people who are involved in the freelancing side of your life. In simple words, I'm asking you to separate your freelancing life from your personal life. You may not have to do that with a regular office job and things like that, because a regular office is regulated. There are people involved, the government is involved, there are rules, regulations, and things like that. So you have a lesser chance of falling into a danger zone. But freelancing is always a danger zone. So you must do what you can to protect yourself. And one simple way to do that is to have a separate phone to deal with freelancing related communication. So that is the next thing you're going to purchase. Your personal phone, it can be a separate phone, and your freelancing phone has to be a separate phone. So that is the next expense for you. Now after that, but one thing I do want to add is, if you are doing work which involves using your phone a lot, then it may be worth your time to buy an expensive iPhone for your freelancing as well. I personally recommend iPhones. They are expensive, especially in India. In India, I think iPhones have like 50% or 80% or 100% tax on top of the regular tax. So iPhones are already very expensive, and they become even more expensive in India. But still, I like to think they are worth the investment, because my previous iPhone, it lasted for more than three and a half years. It was a very expensive phone, but it did not give any trouble till the last day. And even at the end, I was able to return the expensive iPhone, the previous phone, to the Apple India website, and I was able to get some discount on my next iPhone. So the iPhones are expensive, but they are really good machines for productivity. And today, freelancing heavily, if you are getting into a freelancing which involves using mobile phone a lot, then an investment in an iPhone is a really good investment. Okay, so in my case, I mostly work as a coding tutor, so all my communication happens over email and Discord and Skype. So I don't really need a phone as such. In fact, I don't use this freelancing phone at all. But sometimes, yes, clients might send a message for WhatsApp and things like that. So I don't have a choice. So I have a budget Android phone dedicated for freelancing. But I switch off the incoming. So I tell everyone, the phone is incoming, no outgoing. They have to message. So I use it for WhatsApp and things like that. But yes, if your work involves heavy usage of phone, if a lot of your freelancing work gets done over phone, then it may be worth your time to invest in an iPhone for freelancing as well. Okay. I have nothing against Android phones. Seriously, I have nothing against them. But I'm just, for example, my freelancing phone is an Android. I have nothing against it, but I somehow I can't seem to justify spending too much money on an Android phone. Somehow even an expensive premium Android phone feels cheap and half-baked next to an iPhone. I don't know why. I just get that feeling. So anyway, so moving on from that. So you need to have two phones. One is your personal phone and another one is your freelancing phone. That is going to be your next expense. Then comes your, let me have a grape here. Hold on. Then comes your computer. Now, I'm in coding. Even though I'm only a coding tutor these days, every now and then I'll still have to build projects. I'll still have to write software and things like that. Now, for me, I definitely, in computers, there are two things. You have desktops and you have laptops. So two options. Now, if you are not into computers, okay, if you're not a coding person, or even if you are a coder or something like that, I would recommend that you stick to laptops. There are many reasons why I'm saying that. I mean, I personally don't use laptops for work, and there are reasons for that. I'm going to come back to that later. But honestly, if you are trying to be freelancing, you should just go and get yourself whatever is the most expensive laptop you can purchase. Okay, the reason is, there are many, and I'm going to list them out right now. So one thing is, when it comes to laptops, you have a lot of variety in terms of budget, in terms of what you can get for how much money. Like in India, you can get laptops for as little as, let's say, $600. And going up to $2,000, $3,000, and it keeps going higher. So the good thing about that is that there is a laptop available for whatever budget you are looking for, right? So that is one thing. Second thing is, see, when it comes to freelancing, especially if you're working at home, maybe you don't have a dedicated room yet. Maybe you don't have a dedicated office yet. Maybe you don't have a dedicated desk yet. You don't have a dedicated place it, and also you may be traveling a lot. You might be traveling to meet your clients. You may be traveling, or sometimes you can't sit in the living room because you have guests. You can't sit in the bedroom because there's something else happening. You can't. So you should be able to work wherever you can find space, especially in the early days of your freelancing career. That is one reason why I recommend, although I don't use laptops myself. I mean, I own two laptops. I only use them for emergencies. Otherwise, I'm not a big fan of laptops. But for a beginner freelancer, I really recommend going for a laptop because of the flexibility. You will be able to work anywhere. If let's say you don't have a space at all in your home, or if your family is unable to support your freelancing, then you can always go to the nearest library. You can always go to the nearest coffee shop or a shared workspace. They are very cheap, especially in the big cities. And you can always find a space where you can just go, put on your headphones and just work in peace. And you can only do that if you have a laptop. So that is why I recommend freelancers, especially early freelancers who don't have enough flexibility to go with a laptop. And of course, there's a laptop available for any kind of budget. Now, recommendations, of course, I will always say that you should get a MacBook Air. Today, the way things are going these days, everything is online. So really, it doesn't matter Windows or Mac. You can do the same kind of work on both machines. But I personally recommend a MacBook Air. That is the one I have with me. I had MacBook Air when I was younger. I have it now as well. And once the current MacBook Air dies, I'm sure I'll replace it with a newer MacBook Air. Now, why would I recommend MacBook Air? Just like the iPhone, in my experience, Apple computers, they are always top quality, always top quality. Every Mac I have owned has run without any trouble for many years, and they have excellent battery life. I mean, seriously, we are talking at least 8 hours in the older MacBooks, and the newer MacBooks, I'm told that they can go up to 15 hours and more. I mean, if you're from India or something, and especially if you're traveling a lot and something, imagine the kind of work you can get done with that kind of power backup. So seriously, the battery life, you will never get that on a Windows machine. I have a Surface Pro, and I was told when I purchased the Surface Pro that it'll have a battery life of 8 or 10 hours, just like the MacBook, but no, it wouldn't last for more than 4 hours or 5 hours, and regular Windows laptops will not run for more than 2 or 3 hours. So yes, so again, I understand if you're doing freelancing, you probably don't have enough money. Maybe that is why you're doing freelancing. I get that, but I'm gonna keep going back to what I said. Maybe not immediately you can afford these things, but eventually it should be on your purchase list. But as always, let's not forget, to make money, you really have to spend money. You can't escape that fact. When I started my freelancing, I didn't have any money. So what I did was I had to borrow at very high interest rates from local money lenders, because banks wouldn't talk to me, obviously. So that is how I was able to jack up my home office. So yeah, so there you go. So if you have to buy a laptop, then if you can afford it or you can borrow some money, then please go for a MacBook Air. But otherwise, just buy any laptop which falls within your budget. Okay, so the reason is simple. One, it gives you the flexibility, and second thing is, it's lightweight. You can take it with you. Your work may involve traveling. You may have to meet clients, give presentations and things like that. So it is your personal companion. And then combine your laptop, the mobility of your laptop, with the mobility of your phone, you're good to go. You're all set. Now, however, I still think, now I personally don't use laptops, although I have two of them, both of them very expensive machines, but I personally use a desktop. The reason is, very simple, the power. Okay. Now, you have to understand that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how expensive your laptop is. Even if you buy a MacBook Air, ultimately, laptops are a compromise. Okay, they cannot do things as fast as you're supposed to. So that is why I prefer to work on a desktop. And when it comes to desktop, I am fine with both iMac or any expensive gaming Windows PC. Now, Windows PC, I recommend HP. Whatever horror stories you may have heard about, HP computers or Dell computers or those things, yeah, those horror stories are real. But the gaming PCs, because they are expensive and premium, at least as far as I'm concerned, they seem to be running very smoothly. They have good performance, and the support from HP and even Dell, they are pretty good. So as far as the desktop is concerned, you could go with an iMac, which is a amazing machine. I have an iMac as well, so it's an amazing machine. Seriously, the screen is bonkers. The display on the iMac is just out of this world. Even very oldish mobile phone videos that I may have taken from my earlier mobile phones look amazing on the iMac, simply because the screen is so good. But of course, a gaming PC is where things really happen, and they happen really fast. Like right now, I am doing this workshop, streaming it and everything on a Windows gaming PC, and everything is super fast. And the best part is, it is so easy to upgrade the RAM. It is so easy to upgrade the hard drive. It is so easy to connect peripherals. It's so easy to install software. Everything happens in seconds. So if you are working on a desktop, you will be saving half an hour or 1 hour every day because of how fast these things are. So if an ideal situation like the one I have with me, where you have your own apartment and you can work in peace and you have multiple desks and all that, then you should be freelancing on a desktop computer. So this should be your long-term goal. Maybe in the beginning you start with a laptop and things like that, but when you are more settled, you have more money coming in, you want to go after better clients, then desktop is where you should be living. Now those are the main things. Now there are some small things you need to remember. I'm going to mention that, and then I'm going to wrap up this workshop right now. Now one of the first thing is high speed internet. Now this is something which is so important, and also remember, just like how you have a second phone for contacting your clients, you have a separate room for working freelance, you need to have a separate internet connection just for your freelancing. This is extremely important. Okay, you cannot work on the same internet connection that everybody else in your house is using. Okay, because you might be in the middle of a very important client call, and then the call starts, and that is the exact moment when someone in your family might decide to download a video game on Steam or Xbox. Someone might decide to watch a movie in 4K or something, and then now all the internet is being taken away, consumed by other people in your house, and you are stuck in a Zoom call which keeps telling you that your connectivity is weak. You don't want that, seriously. So you want to have a separate internet connection, just like you have a separate mobile phone for freelancing. Okay, now the next thing is power backup. Now this may not be a huge issue if you're using a laptop and things like that, but still power cuts do happen, especially in India. They happen a lot, maybe not so much in Western countries and so on, but power backup is essential, especially if you're using a desktop and so on. So my personal recommendation for backup is APC. APC is the only UPS company in the world that makes actual UPS that you can purchase. I mean, yes, APC models are again expensive. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5 or 6 APC UPSs in my house right now, plugged into so many computers and whatnot. But yes, so power backup, very important to protect your expensive computer equipment and things like that. So there you go, high speed internet, separate interconnection, power backup, APC. Now, along with this, this may be a silly thing to add here, but please make sure that you have lots of fruits, okay? Fruits in your refrigerator. Like right now, I have a bowl of grapes. I'm gonna have one more grape right now. Hold on. Because when you're freelancing, believe it or not, you do get tired. And one of the good things about working from home is that your refrigerator and your kitchen is close by. So you don't really have to go too far to grab a bite. So I make sure my refrigerator is stocked with fruits, especially because you don't want to eat junk food. It's not good for your health, but fruits, it's good for your health. It doesn't contain any fat or something, and it helps you health and keeps you motivated and stuff like that. So there you go, folks. This is all the things I wanted to explain. These are all the things I already have. It took me, of course, many years to build my ideal home office. Okay, but of course, as I mentioned, in the beginning, I just decided to go. I was so sure. Maybe I was an idiot, or maybe I just knew. I simply borrowed a huge loan from a local money lender at a very high interest rate. And I set up my office. I got myself a separate home. I got myself a desk. I didn't get the lumbar chair, but I got cheaper chairs. But eventually, of course, then I got a separate phone. I got expensive laptops and desktops, and then of course I installed power backup, high-speed internet, everything. So I got everything ready, and I personally believe, like to me, like freelancing is, an example I would like to take is the relationship between a knight and his horse. Okay, now you see movies, right? You see movies and you see mythological movies. You see these old-timey movies about sorcerers and golems and things like that. And you have the hero, the knight, and the knight has his horse. Now, it doesn't matter how much of a expert or a warrior the knight is. The knight is only as good as his horse. In the middle of a battle, if the horse gives up on him, then the knight is on the ground and he'll be easily taken out from the battle because he no longer has a good horse. So to me, a freelancer, it doesn't matter. So to me, I would like to draw a relationship between that and this. I would like to say a freelancer and his tools. When I say tools, I'm talking all the things in his home office. I mean, many times I confess that I'm not the best coding tutor. I'm not the best developer. My knowledge about coding is barely acceptable. I never claim to be an expert in programming or anything like that, but I have some essential knowledge. And yet I'm able to survive in this freelancing industry for 10 years. I don't have a salary job or anything. I believe one of the reasons is that I am good, and I know, like, maybe half good or acceptable good, but my tools, my computer, my internet, my power backup, like right now the workshop, I use a very expensive condenser microphone to do this workshop, and I use the same microphone for my calls, for my Zoom calls, and the reason is simple. I want my client to hear my voice as if I am sitting next to them. So when I speak, I want them to really get the authenticity of my voice, because I'm a tutor. A lot of the tutor's magic is in his voice. The minor variations, the accent, the words that are spoken, the pauses, the breathing, the delay between important phrases that are used. All these things must be delivered in the highest quality possible to my clients. So I use an expensive condenser microphone. So I believe that a freelancer might be highly skilled, but if he does not have the tools, top quality tools, not tools that are compromised, then he will not be able to deliver is 100%. Just like a knight, a knight is a good knight, and his horse, his ride, the horse is also good. Then together they make the ultimate combination, and they will be the best knights in the land. Similarly, a freelancer might have, like my own example, I have acceptable skills. I don't have great skills or something in coding and stuff like that, but I have acceptable skills, and combined with my reliable, high quality equipment and home office, I'm able to deliver top quality work to my clients. And that is why a lot of things I mentioned, they will cost a lot of money. And once again, I am going to repeat about this money thing. If you are planning to make money, I can assure you from experience, there is a decent amount of money to be made in freelancing. I'm not saying you would become wealthy, but I can tell you from experience that at least you won't be poor, and you will still have your freedom. If that is what you crave, you don't become a freelancer because it excites you, because life as a freelancer is not exactly the most financially stable lifestyle. But I have different priorities. I prefer the freedom it gives me, even if I have to compromise on the stability of the income flow. So ultimately, if you are planning to become a freelancer, please understand that you will make a lot of money. That is a certainty, and I am the proof. But before you can make money, at least in the first couple of years, you will be spending a lot of money. But of course, this is something which happens with any business. Every business you can think of probably never made any profit in the first year or two of starting the business. Freelancing is like a one-person business. So in the beginning, there would be a cash outflow, and my logic is you have to spend money anyway on these things. Just don't cheap out. Okay, just don't cheap out, because when you have the tools that support your work, you will feel motivated and you will work that much harder. And when you deliver the 100% that you can with the right tools, it makes your clients become more confident with you. And that is how you grow your business. Repeat orders, repeat customers, long-term clients. And of course, I'll be talking more about these things in future episodes. But I think we have spent at least a half an hour, maybe more than 30 minutes today. So with that, I am going to wrap it up here. So once again, we have our Discord channel. So please consider joining. We have a channel dedicated to freelancing. You can meet other freelancers. You can ask questions and stuff like that. And thank you for joining. Or if you're watching a recording, thank you for watching the recording. Bye bye.